if you're going to ask me, it's on the table that I can say anything, which is what happened. I said, I want a big ass rock. I want it to be fancy. I want all my friends to be jealous. That's what I want. I don't need it. But if you're going to ask me. Hello, I'm Titi.
I'm Jen.
And you're listening to
The
Things. We gotta work on that.
That was not talked about beforehand.
No, it's called improvisation. Are you thing one or thing two?
Two.
Okay, let's take it from the top. Hello, I'm thing one. You gave me a face of disdain. So, well, I wanted to catch up with you. It's been a week since we've hung out. You went up to the Bay Area. I guess we can bleep that out. We won't talk about that. But it was Lunar New Year. Happy Year of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm. Happy Year of the Dragon.
Thank you. I really like that in Chinese culture, we get to say, I hope you get rich. And this is something I've been telling everyone. It's something that is a normal thing. It's actually, in fact, a point of pride. Like, we love money and it's not embarrassing. And I think most people love money. But for some reason, in some cultures, it's poo-poo to talk about money, or poo-poo to say you like money, or poo-poo to say, I hope you have money. But in Chinese culture, especially on New Year's, you get to go around and be like, I hope you get rich. And I hope you get rich too. Thank you. I hope you get rich. And I hope you get rich.
Thank you. I hope you get rich as well.
Thank you. What did you do for Chinese New Year's?
We had hot pot.
Very nice. What's your favorite Chinese New Year tradition?
Probably red envelopes. I don't know. I mean, I guess just seeing family. Like, it's sort of like the holidays for Asian people.
Sure.
It's just like gathering around and everyone comes together. Yeah.
Do you think that you will give red envelopes to your children?
Oh yeah, of course.
What
about you?
I think so. But I will say definitely, so me and my partner are come from different cultures, and it's not, he's Salvadoran, and I think it's not, the money thing is not polite in Salvadoran culture to be giving away money, asking for money the way we do in Chinese culture. And so it'll have to be...
You don't ask for it.
No, but I just mean, well, parents give money in Chinese culture. That's a thing. In fact, to the point where it's like maybe the kids are entitled.
In Chinese culture, it is also rude to ask for it. Because I remember when we were kids, there was a joke and kids would go like, 恭喜发财, 红包拿来, and the parents would be like, don't do that. That's rude.
Yeah, that is rude. But I just meant like, it's not... Chinese culture, for better or for worse, parents will give their children, see their children, their offspring as children well into their adult. Like, that's how they view them sometimes. And I don't necessarily love that, but that part of that is parents in a lot of ABC culture will continue giving money to their kids, like for gifts and things like that, which is not as prevalent in Latin culture. In fact, it's opposite. A lot of times the kids send money to the parents. And so that is something that I think is interesting. I love the cross-cultureness of it, but also that I'd want to make sure we're raising our child with the best of both worlds. Like, I don't want an entitled kid, and I would be happy to have my kid work hard, make money, and send me money. So there's like kind of like that element is not prevalent in middle class Asian American culture.
Well, I was going to say it is. It's, if you go to Asia, I guess Asian American maybe not, but it is very normal for once you are an adult, now the roles flip and you give your parents money.
You give your parents money once you're no longer a child, but I'm just saying that
which under normal circumstances is younger, but now more and more people are getting married later, and in Chinese culture, you're a child until you're married. Yeah,
but that's kind of what okay, so that's interesting, but the other thing I'm kind of just from a point of view of family is very different, because I've talked to Chris about this before, and it's interesting how I realized like if we didn't talk about it, some things I realized like could be seen almost complete opposite, like a little disdainful, the fact that our parents would even give us birthday money. It almost feels like it's like how I feel when I see that rich girl, and this is a hypothetical, but rich girl in TV who's like, Daddy, I want a pony. That's like a type. But then also there's also people who are like, I would love to spoil my little girl and give her a pony. And so it's just a cultural thing. So for me, it's like, I like that we can find the world where I'm like, oh, maybe there is something to be said about like, I love to get money on my birthday, but I've never thought to send money to my parents in the way of like, I think I really admire one of my best friends. He's Mexican, and he's been doing that since he graduated high school. And I think that's something that culturally I haven't thought about. And I'm like, oh,
I think about that a lot. I keep telling mom, like, that's what I want to do. But I don't think Chinese people don't do that. Actually, I think they do that a lot. But maybe what you're picking up on, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing maybe Asian American people have lost a bit of that connection to their culture, whereas you're saying sounds like maybe Hispanic people keep more of those traditions, because in Asia it's very common, once you start working you send money to your parents.
Yeah, but I guess
so like every month you give them
to be totally clear, I'm not saying that Asian people don't give money to their parents. I'm saying the specific tradition.
But maybe you're right, Asian Americans maybe are divorcing their culture a little more.
No, I'm saying the specific culture of putting money in envelopes and giving money as
like
gifts.
On occasions.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very Chinese. And
right, yes,
most Western cultures don't do that, but specifically Latin cultures really don't do that, at least from my experience, in the same way. Like, it would be, if I gave you an envelope of money, it would have a much different connotation. It would be like, I am giving
like
you money because you need money. Yeah. And in Chinese culture, it's so prevalent. Like, you're literally going to weddings, you're giving money on birthdays, you're giving money when you haven't seen someone for 6 months. You're like, here's a hongbao, take some money. And so it's just culturally an interesting observation, because I don't think there's a different, I mean, that's a whole nother episode we could unpack for many reasons. We could talk about class. We could talk about,
maybe going down a whole different.
Yeah. And so like we could table this, but like, obviously I'm aware that there's many issues at play, right? Like class, globalization, colonization, all these different cultures like that. Where do we get our culture from? Where do we get our traditions from? Immigration, wealth, education, all that. Like, where are we drawing these references of like, is it shameful to give money or not? Like, I am understanding that there's a lot, but right now all I really meant was the tradition of putting money in envelopes and parading around being like, I want to be rich, rich is very Chinese. Like, I don't see that in a lot of other cultures.
Americans? Hello.
Americans talk about money in a different way. You're not supposed to show up to dinner.
Rich.
Americans don't go to dinner and talk about how much do you make? I hope you make money.
That's rooted in Chinese culture too.
All right. Well, I think that can bring us into our thing today. So today's thing is, you want to say it together? Getting engaged. We've lost our psychic connection. Okay, so today we're talking about getting engaged. That is the topic. That is the thing. And we'll get into, there's a lot around this. I think we want to specifically focus on getting engaged, more around the engagement process and engagement rather than weddings and marriage. Of course, we will touch into those topics as well because they're related, but just like a little disclaimer because there's so much and I don't want to be like, are we talking about weddings? I want to start with a few statistics just to get us on the right, just to like kind of start us off. Okay. Yes, they did their research. Okay, so getting engaged, obviously we all know what it means, right? It's like, we're not talking about getting engagement on TikTok. We're talking about...
That's what I thought you meant when you first said it last week.
Well, you know, in some ways, getting engaged is the ultimate way to get engagement on social media. Come on, that ring pose is going to get you engagement. But it's true. But that's kind of what we're talking about today. So I did look up some statistics. I think this is super interesting. When I brought it up, I thought it'd be kind of vaguely interesting to talk about because I think it's floating in the air, especially around this time of year, from holidays, to February. But never deep dived into it as a topic, and I think it's interesting. So here's some statistics. According to the Knot, the average engagement length in U.S. couples is 15 months. It was 16 months in 2021, 15 months in 2020, and 14 months in 2019. So it seems like we're going longer. This article also says it's important to note couples were waiting longer to wed in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID-related wedding postponements. So at that time, people would postpone their weddings for an average of 24 months. So that's been factored in. According to the Knot Jewelry and Engagement Study, 3/4 of couples who exchanged vows this year dated for 2 or more years before getting engaged. However, 30% of couples dated for less than 2 years, and nearly half of those couples dated for less than a year. I think that's really interesting because it would make sense that people would date a long time, but also on the other side, the really extremes who fall in love really quick and want to get engaged, that also makes sense would be way less,
They have to do a study to see how many of those couples stay together because I don't think this would even spread across.
Sure.
Yeah, because a lot of people especially who are really young and get married young. They just
Yeah.
jump into it.
Or serial marriage people. Like I know people who've gotten married like 8 times, or that kind of. Well, there's people who would
Jeez.
people would do that. People who get married and engaged, like that's maybe extreme, but like 3, 4, 5. Once you're at that level, you got to think about it, and you're probably jumping into it much quicker. Okay, this one's interesting. So in 2010, only 5% of women in heterosexual couples had proposed. But recent data shows this has now gone up to 16%. And we're talking about heterosexual couples. And we will talk about queer couples and gay couples and same-sex marriage in a bit. But I think it's really interesting, the idea of women proposing to men in traditionally straight couples. Because that's, as we move past the whole, like, your property thing, there's people are realizing, like, proposals are fun. Maybe it's fun to get proposed to. And I think that's interesting. Okay, I have a one for you to guess. Okay, so I have the 5 most popular dates to get engaged. Can you guess them?
Hawaii.
Dates.
Yeah, like a vacation.
Oh, okay. Well, like today's date is February 12th.
Oh, date, like the date. Oh, I thought you meant like the type of date.
I just thought of that. Have you seen Miss Congeniality? What is your ideal date? March? I don't remember the date, but what she said. March 7th. Oh, what? Hawaii.
Oh, like actual date. I don't know. Yes. Okay, I'll get 5. There's 5. Okay. Birthday?
These are actual dates. So is October 25th one of your guesses?
Only for people born on those days.
No. I'm just going to give you an example.
Fine.
How about I give you one?
Valentine's Day, obviously.
Okay. Yes.
Christmas. New Year's. Are there any holidays in the summer? Because I feel like that's when people take vacations. What's the summer? Oh, Labor Day, I guess. And Memorial Day?
Those are really good guesses. So actually, all of these dates are between December and February. So we got December 25th, Christmas. December 24th, Christmas Eve. January 1st, New Year's. You got that. December 18th, I guess, because you're about to leave for Christmas. I don't know. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to go home for Christmas.
How do they know this?
And February 14th, they did a study. The Knot did a study.
Okay.
And February 14th.
I got like 4 out of 5. No.
Yeah, you did a good job. You got there. You got the gist of it. Holiday
3.
season, yeah. But it's interesting. I would have thought Thanksgiving would be around there, but maybe because it pops around every year, it's not always the same.
I think people are too busy on Thanksgiving.
So people like to. I think Thanksgiving kicks off the engagement season because people like to go home to their families and have something to announce.
But then they're gonna go back to Christmas. Yeah. So they'll wait till then.
Okay. A 2017 study by Pew Research Center found that roughly half of never married adults aged 18 to 29 cite financial instability as a major reason why they are not married. I found that interesting because I think that number must be going up. I feel like more and more we're all having. It used to be that people would get married for financial stability. I think, right? For a while, I mean, a long, long time ago, but like families getting married and also making it deals. And now it's like, I can't afford to get married. Which is funny because it used to be like, I need to get married. I can't pay for my life. And it's now like, I need a job so I can get married. And it used to be like, I need to get married so I don't have to have a job.
That's funny.
Yeah. What do you think about those stats so far?
I never thought of it that way, but now that you said that, I think that it makes sense because people look at marriage differently now, and they also look at work differently. Like people work now for fulfillment instead of money. Like people will pick careers that they enjoy. So it's like a long-term thing versus back in the day, you might have had to work because you need the money. And so once you get married, you don't need to work anymore because you don't need the money. But now people don't want marriage to get in the way of their career fulfillment because you'll pick a career. Like that's number one.
It's like, where do you get your fulfillment from in life?
Yeah, that's like a number one for most people, men and women. I think some women want, dream of being stay-at-home moms, but I think more and more women.
But they see that as a job. It's in that category, like you're saying. Well, you're putting it as like, what is your life's purpose? To be a wife. You're now comparing that to other women choosing to be a CEO. Like I see what you mean. You're choosing your purpose in life, not as a duty, but now as what is the thing that will fulfill you.
Yeah. So, what I was gonna say is, I think not. Even though some women still dream of being a stay-at-home mom, I think a lot of women now, because when you're a kid, the teachers say like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they drill that into your head. A lot of women have kind of a North Star of what they want, like doctor, lawyer, whatever it is that they want to be. And the family like is built around that, but their main mission is still the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, maybe they feel like they can't be distracted. I think it's men and women, but I just think it's probably more women than it used to be, because back in the day, I don't think that women would go for those things as much.
Yeah, and it's interesting and more telling. I don't have stats on this, but just from my observations of being of a weddable age and having friends who've been wedded, that the wedding industry is overwhelmingly targeted towards brides and women. Like, obviously the man is a part of this, and, you know, depending on how you're handling it, either you're splitting the cost or your families, whatever, but we're just talking about who is being marketed to in the wedding industry. The ads, it's all like her special day, the imagery, everything is marketing to brides, you know, and it's really about the woman's experience. Whereas like before, back in the day, it really was like the bride had very little to do with how the wedding went down. It was like the bride was the thing that showed up.
The thing?
Yeah, like, you know, like
the cake.
Yeah, and now it's like it's your special day, which is, it's so interesting, because I do think, obviously I'm glad that we're not just trading women as property anymore, but we've kind of come so far the other way. We're like, how can we now exploit these women who aren't property to make them spend all their time and money on this one day? It's really not. It's like, it's a party for you. It's your special day because you only get one chance to be the bride. But really in the past, it was like, we made it a fanfare, I think, honestly, to kind of like make the situation more palatable for a lot of these young women way back in the day, getting married off, never seeing your family again. I'm sure marriage, it wasn't always like bad, but like it was a scary thing. And so they do a big party and everyone comes together, make you feel special. And then you got to lose your virginity. And that was how it used to be. And now it's like,
I don't think the celebration was for the women. I think, like you said, the women maybe were more property. The celebration is for the man. Or not for the man, but for the families. It's for the families.
yeah.
It's never for the couple. The couple doesn't need
But
that.
now I think it's so much
It still isn't.
telling brides.
If it's just a couple, you just get eloped, right?
But a lot of times now the wedding industry is really marketing towards the bride. How do you want it? And that's where we get the Bridezilla from.
I've never seen the show.
The show? You've never heard the term Bridezilla?
It's a TV show, right?
It is?
That's
I
where
think
that's where it came from, I think.
Perhaps, but I think that Bridezilla, lowercase b, is a term for a bride who is a bit of a...
Yeah, but it came
tyrant.
from a TV show back in the day, like a reality show.
Oh. I have a question for you. Do you care about engagements? Like what? Like in the grand scheme, like talking about being a child and wanting to be an astronaut or whatever. Like in the big kind of nebulous list of things that matter to you in your life. That like, oh, I really want that, or I don't. Like, where does getting engaged fall on that for you?
For myself or people's?
For you.
Oh, well, to me, it's just a step to marriage. Like, that thing itself isn't important.
Is it something that you definitely want, or more
marriage?
Like, yeah. Or more depends on the guy, or you don't know.
Married,
like, do you want to be married?
Yeah. I want to get married eventually, but I never saw marriage as a thing to do. Like, I think that's like a backwards way. It's like saying, well, I did this, but it's an example of like saying like, I want to go to this college, but you don't know what you want to study. And then you do 4 years and like, I didn't study. Could we swear?
You can if you want.
So then it's like, oh crap, I didn't go to the school to study what I need. So then I went back to college. So if you do it that way, if you're like, I want to get married, that's what happens when people marry the wrong person, because they're like, I just want to get married. And then they get married and like, wait, you're not the person I wanted to get married to. I think it happens a lot like that because people are so focused on the thing. So I never looked at it that way, because to me, marriage is just represents love. So it's like, if you don't love them, why would you get married?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I would also like to add that I think there is a sliding scale, a more nuanced version of that, where it's like, when you're a child, you could want to have a career, or you could want to have you be married, but you could also not want to get married, and you could then meet someone who makes you change your mind, and that's okay too. But I just mean more in that abstract sense, because obviously there are some people who really want to get married before they even met the person, and then they will do, as time ticks,
they just slot them in.
Well, as time ticks, they may just decide, I don't care if it's the right person, I want to get married. But there are some people who want to get married and haven't found the right person and are willing to wait until they find the right person. But it is still something they want. So that's kind of what I meant. Because I would say I always thought of you maybe if I had to guess as wanting to get married more than I did. And I don't know where that comes from, but maybe just more traditionally, I feel like the love thing, I think I have been a little more like, about love in my life. But deep down, I'm a romantic. Deep down, I'm like, I'll jump into anything, eyes closed, feet first, like, like, yes, like that. I have that attitude towards love. It's not like my walls are up. Like, I'm like, yes, I want love. But I'm also like, if you were to ask me, even today, and I love my partner who I want to marry, but if you ask me, do I want to get married as an idea? But the answer is more towards no than yes, but it's not no and I don't want to be married, if that makes sense. It's just more like as an idea, the idea of like, oh, marriage as an idea doesn't excite me as much as I think it excites some people. What really excites me, because I'm like the idea of having being in a commune or having a roommate that I'm best friends with, all those things to me are similar to what a marriage would fulfill if abstract, not with the person. And those don't have to include love. For me, what marriage represents to me is a bit of a stability, a partnership. All those things are true, but I also find that I could have them if I started a production company and I was the boss and I really ran it. So that's what I mean, I guess, when I'm asking.
You know, that's interesting that you say that, because I just binge watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Have you seen it? The new one?
No, I haven't. My Erskine's in it.
So I won't ruin it. But the general broad strokes of the way they recreated the show. And before I watched the show, I watched Francesca Sloan and talking about how, because she and Donald Glover created it, right? Or he approached her to co-create it with him. And she was talking about their approach on this. And she was saying they wanted to explore the idea of marriage and how it can, how it could be a partnership. Because the premise, if you don't know, is they flipped the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The original one was a married couple that didn't know each other, were spies, and then they were assigned to kill each other. This one is opposite. It was two strangers who are assigned to be married. So they flipped it backwards. They flipped it as they start off as strangers, but they know they're assigned to be married as spies. Like their job is spies. So that part's the same. So they're just coming
like
out.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
One was spies that didn't know each other was a couple that didn't know each other were spies. This is a spies that are forced to be a couple. But they kind of explore the elements of marriage and partnership as they go on. Because, of course, I don't think this was spoiled because it's part of the premise. They kind of fall for each other as it goes on. But even with their, not clients isn't the right word, but the people they're, assigned to like spy and stuff on, there's a lot of themes of marriage and partnership and things like that. So the whole show is like exploring what you said of like, and actually Francesca Sloan said that exact same thing in the BTS. She was like exploring the idea of how marriage can be a partnership where there doesn't need to be love. What you just said. So that's interesting that you said that.
Well, yeah. That's interesting. I have to check it out because I really just remember. And
I think you would like it.
How old I am is like I just remember the Brad Pitt.
It's very different. They purposely did it very different. The tone is.
Well, I know it's different, and that's kind of what turns me off from it. But I'll give it a shot because.
Have you seen Atlanta?
I have, but the reason it turns me off, if I might finish, is because nowadays, being of the industry, everybody just wants IP, and so it is new, but what they want is like, do your take on this IP we own, and that is very much that. And then if you get to do it well, you do it well. But I really there's a part of me that's just like, the industry just cannot understand that if you're good, like Donald Glover made Atlanta and is good at stuff, you can just tell them to make something, but it's like, no, we gotta do your take on this IP we have because we own it.
Well, I was gonna say, if you've seen Atlanta, the director Hiro Murai, they brought him on to do this too, so he has that kind of same eclectic.
Yeah, and that's what they
vibe.
do, and it's just like instead of learning that we just let you do the thing you want, it's like let's have you do this reboot.
From my understanding, it was Donald Glover's idea, at least
Donald Glover's idea after they wanted.
Who's
IP.
they? Oh, Amazon?
I've been in these meetings before.
All right, whatever. We're not getting into. I only brought it up because
I've been in these meetings. They're like, we like your style. Well, if there's anything in our repertoire that you'd like to do your take on, it's like, how about I just give you a new idea?
Okay, I don't want to talk on something I don't know, so I only brought it up because of what you said about marriage. So
okay, I'll check it out. It's interesting. Okay.
So you don't think marriage needs to have
I didn't say I don't think marriage needs to have love. I didn't say that. Don't put that in my mouth. I said you said marriage to you represents love, but when I hear marriage, I can have love without marriage. That's what I mean. I mean, for me, it's not like if I don't get married, I don't have love. But what it means to me is I don't think I'd want a marriage without love, but I wouldn't mind having love without marriage. But on the other side, what I'm trying to clarify is if I had love without marriage, I think there are some elements of marriage I would like in my life to be fulfilled by other relationships, like a roommate or production company or a vice president. What I'm saying is if I broke up the elements of marriage, the part that I want from it, the love, I believe can exist outside of marriage. But I don't think I'd marry my vice president. I just mean like if I was looking for the kind of stability that marriage might bring me in a traditional sense, I would also be open to being with a lover long term and it being more chaotic and unstable if we had stability in our lives from other things like our careers or our families. You know, that's more what I mean. I do think the stability is important to me.
What part of marriage is stable?
The part where you sign a contract and you build something together. And I think that there are some marriages that might be more unstable. It might be like, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow and let's be married. And that's fun. But if I had that, I would very much enjoy having a home base of some people, characters in my life, not my wife or husband, that had a little more stability. Like if I was running a company, I wouldn't mind if we had a quarterly meeting or whatever, right? But like if I was in a marriage, you know, I think it's safe to say you are committing to building something together. So if I wasn't married, but I had a partner and we were in love and it was a little more up and down, I would enjoy having that stability in something else in my life, like a women's softball team, you know, like that kind of thing. Like I'm just saying for me, marriage has so many elements that I believe I can find in other places and it's not the end goal for me.
That reminds me, because in my research for this podcast, I just typed literally the title of the podcast, Getting Engaged, and looked at what came up. And the first article was, is Usher secretly engaged? Because he just did a Super Bowl. But I skipped that one. And then
is he?
The next one was, let me see if I can remember the title.
Why is that a Super Bowl thing? Do people do it when they're secretly engaged?
No, because he just played the Super Bowl, so they're putting him in the tabloids because they always do that when someone's relevant.
Some clicks.
Yeah, but because people are searching him, blah blah blah. But the second one that came up was, and I might be getting the title like not exactly, but it was like, "There's no reason to get married unless you're about to die." And it was The Telegraph, which is a UK, or why people think there's no, or something like some long title like. It was The Telegraph, which is a UK publication, and they said that officially, and this is based on UK stats, so I don't know American, but I imagine culturally it's pretty similar to the United States. It said that for the first time, the adult population, there is not, how do I word this? The percentage of adults that are married is less than half. So in 2020, I think it was like 50.6 or something like that. I might be getting the numbers, but it was around 50 something. 2022, it was 49.4. So now it's officially less. And this is from the Office of National Statistics, which is the UK's equivalent of the Census Bureau. That number was from there. So it was like some official, semi-official.
Okay, so more adults are choosing the life of not being married than are choosing to be married.
They predicted, I forget who, maybe it was the same guy or whatever in the article. They said somebody projected based on these projections that by 2062, most people would not be married. They say like maybe 1 out of 400 adults would be married. Of course, this is just a projection.
Could this possibly be connected to the fact that we have no financial stability?
And we just came out of a pandemic, so I feel like that projection might not keep going linearly.
Also, the part where we aren't getting married because of money. Like, how many people are in stable relationships? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, so that's what the article explored. It interviewed a bunch of like 50, 60-year-olds who are like basically domestic partnerships, and they're like, we don't have any reason to get married. But the reason they had the parentheses, unless you're going to die, is because there was one couple that got married in their 60s or 50s who has kids, and they've been living stable and happy. But what happened was, and they said their accountant kept pressuring them because of the financial thing. And they said if one of them died, Oh, I think actually she did it because her uncle or somebody in her family died, and she realized there was so much paperwork if you're not married. So they did it for the kids, because they said they realized if one of them died, they're going to basically put their kids through a lot more trouble. Like she would have to sell the house instead of like they could keep living in it, because she doesn't own. Yeah, if you're not married, you don't own the other person's things.
Interesting.
So that they ended up doing it for that. So I'm not saying I agree with that. That's a pretty like cold way of viewing it, but it's an interesting perspective to see like, oh, if you really just look at the pros and cons, I think there's more to it than that, because for some people, it's like
we're all going to die. And you know what? I think I'm about to die every day. So honestly, yesterday I fell off a stool and I was home alone. And do you know how I fell off of it? My pants legs were too wide and they got caught on it and I fell backwards.
Darn those Gen Z wide leg pants.
Yeah, on my ass, on my hand. I iced it. Guess what song was playing when this happened? X gonna give it to you. X gonna give it to you. Gonna give it to you. It was a moment where I was like, I'm about to die. So yeah, every day I can die. I like that you shared that, and I like that you shared that from the UK, because I want to talk about international customs, because obviously we, as Americans, and you know, you and I have been to weddings abroad, been to friends' weddings in France and Bali, Chinese weddings, different customs, but I haven't really heard as much about engagement traditions. So I wanted to kind of go through how engagements are done around the world. First, I found this Reddit thread. They said, someone asked, how are engagements done in your country? And here are a couple of answers that I thought were interesting. From Miss Morgan 88. All my friends back in Spain had the typical mega romantic movie-like proposal types. Think ring in a glass of champagne, down on one knee, walk on the beach during sunset, flowers, guitar playing in the background, you name it.
I've done a few of those.
You what? Oh, yeah.
I've done the guitar proposals.
Nice.
On the beach with the roses.
That's
stuff.
Cute. My German husband had planned to ask me...
Not to clarify.
Yeah.
For other people.
DJ, as a musician.
No, as a singer. Oh, yeah, both.
What do you sing? Do you sing that Bruno Mars? I think I'm gonna marry you.
I did do that one. That one, actually, I think that one was that one. Yes, it was that one.
Oh, baby. Well, you know what? You should sing that for my proposal, and how funny that would be, just as a troll. Can we do it so that, like, wait, oh my God, if I, because I want to talk about proposing as the femme in the relationship, and if, oh my God, we have to do this. We will not. Chris is out of the house right now. I want to propose to Chris.
Posting this on the internet
and bring you in. Well, we don't know when it's gonna happen. You will come in. And you'll say, it's a beautiful day. Hey,
I'm not doing that.
I think I'm going to marry you.
It's weird. You're too awkward.
I want to hire you to do that. Okay. But because this is actually, wait for it comes in. Actually, why don't I skip to that part? Because I want to get, okay, save it, remember it, keep this thought for later. Okay, let me finish this. My German husband had planned to ask me during a big event we attended, but he says he didn't find the right moment. Instead, he pulled out the ring out of his pocket and asked me in a Chinese restaurant's parking lot next to Autobahn. After we had stopped for dinner on the way back home, he was shaking like a leaf, even though I know.
That's so cute.
I was going to say yes, not the type of proposal, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. Smiley face. That one's really cute. Here's one that...
Shaking like a leaf.
That's
a nervous thing.
Yeah, Gurfubdu says, I'm a totally atypical Englishman. My wife is Chinese. We talked about getting married. A little while later, she went to visit her parents in China, came back with 2 engagement rings. That sounds pretty Chinese.
But yeah. Okay, that's another thing I've heard.
Parents buy the rings, yeah.
Parents arranging. And in Taiwan, I remember when I was studying abroad there, a lot of classmates, their parents would be like, and they're like, oh, I think we're going to get married. I'm like, oh, like how long have we been dating? Oh, we just met. The parents arranged it.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about. But that is a thing too. Some people
common
do that.
now still.
Yeah, in Korea and China, they still do that. In India, but this one, if you'll listen,
it's not really quite arranged, but it's like they set them up.
If you'll listen, the parents had nothing to do with the couple, but the parents buy the ring, and that's true. Mom and dad. Mom said, Waigong, her dad, bought the ring for her, and that's not unusual. When I went to Harry Winston's,
the woman's family is usually sometimes financially responsible.
When I went to Harry Winston's to look at rings, just because I wanted to see the nice ones, whatever. We're not gonna get one at Harry Winston's, but we went, and there were like little like rich Chinese couples there, but it was like literally just a daughter and her parents and her grandparents or whatever, and they were just like pick, and they're like, okay, we'll have this, and like the husband was not there. So I was like, Okay. This is pretty normal there.
They had 2 engagement rings, so they each get one.
Yep.
Is that a British
Seems like
custom or Chinese?
Well, I don't know. This English man.
I feel like I should know, but China has. Well, I didn't grow up in. We didn't grow up in Taiwan
mainland.
either, so.
Yeah. This one is cute. I don't know if this is the way they still do it with foreign influence but Sweden proposing. Oh, but in Sweden, proposing and the actual engagement are separate things. For example, after my dad proposed to my mother, they both agreed on a separate date and an occasion to get engaged. The engagement is also when rings are swapped, since both the man and woman get engagement ring, with only the woman getting an actual wedding ring.
Oh, and probably because they invite their friends too.
Yeah, so it just depends. But it seems like in most cultures, there's at one point an exchanging of rings. For America, it's at the wedding itself.
So we do engagement rings. The diamond is the engagement
Men
ring.
don't get. No, the exchanging of rings.
Oh.
I give you one.
The
you
wedding
give me one.
band.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in Sweden, only the woman gets the wedding ring, but they both get an engagement ring.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Just
almost like you've
flipped
already.
around.
Yeah, it's kind of like you've already. There's this element of a circle. I do like the symbol of a circle, and it seems in Sweden it's kind of like, when does the partnership begin? We have already agreed to swap. We're agreeing, and then we seal it with me giving you a ring.
Interesting.
Versus I give you a ring, a promise of my love, and then we seal it by exchanging it.
Is it true that the diamond ring was just a marketing thing invented by De Beers?
Yep.
Where probably some people were doing it, but it wasn't that much, and they capitalized on it and pushed it.
Yeah, they're pretty. So, modern Egypt couples typically choose if they would like to exchange a shabka, a gift of gold given to the bride, or mar, a dowry presented to the bride's family. In Korea, after a couple has agreed to marry, and these are all just like, some of them are traditional. Not everyone does it, obviously.
A lot of stuff is probably modernized.
A lot of them are fun to have. Like, these are just fun customs. Friends of the groom will fill a box or multiple boxes known as a ham with gifts like jewelry. They sing and dance outside the bride's home until her family comes out and begins bribing the groom's friends to hand over the ham. This is a fun and lighthearted Korean engagement tradition. That's cute. It reminds me of the door games in China.
Yeah.
This was a more modern Chinese thing to get them to cut. There's some element of getting in the door. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Like, I like tradition. Then there's symbolism, getting in and out of a door. Virginity. Kind of like it goes right. Yeah, okay. It's like, I'm gonna get in there. You know. Okay. Chinese customs often go to fortune tellers to pick an engagement day, marriage day, what's auspicious, plan the birthdays. Suan Ming, we call it. Okay, this one is the one. Okay, remember when I said save it? Mm-hmm. Okay, now untie that. We're bookmarking back. Okay, this is called Bachelor's Day. Have you heard of it?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, Bachelor Day, known as Ladies' Privilege, is an Irish tradition by which women are allowed to propose to men on Leap Day, the 29th of February. Based on a legend of St. Bridget and St. Patrick. It once had legal basis in Scotland and England. Yes, good astute observation. February 29th is coming up this year, so I believe I shall be hiring your services for singing "It's a Beautiful Day." I actually would like. I mean, if I do this, I wouldn't put this out until later. But I'm actually like, as I was researching this, I was like, this would be so fun to do it on Ladies' Day, because I don't want to. Chris and I want to talk about queer couples too, but Chris and I are a man and a woman. Well, I'm a non-binary person, but like ultimately
presenting.
Yes, very much the. He grew up with the very much like, he's a straight man. So when we talk about proposal, I asked him, we had the discussion, and I asked him, would you want to propose? Do you want both of us to propose, or do you want me to do it? Very, with the, like, you know, in my mind was like very unlikely that he'll say, yes, you do it. Like, and he wants to do it and he would like to be the one to do it. But what would be fun about Leap Day, because I think he did say like, if you really want to, but I think ultimately what he kind of wants to do is have that moment, which I'm happy to give him. Now that I know Leap Day is coming up and there is a tradition of it, it could be fun to propose back to him on Leap Day.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the thing I've seen on online with like. I've seen influencers do it only because they're the only ones who posted, but I'm sure other people do it too. I saw one, she was like a nurse or whatever, and she filmed her proposal to her husband, but it was because he proposed first, and then she realized like, oh, why do men have to do all the planning? Like, I want to give him something special too. So she did one for him too. But it was like, he already had proposed, but she also did it to make him feel special. And I think she gave him a ring or maybe a watch or something. She gave him something to let him feel.
Yeah, I think I want to do it. I'm honestly like, that would be so fun. And I won't, I won't pressure you, but I really think it would be fun if you sang.
No.
Really? Because I would want family. Really? You wouldn't do it if I was for serious? You wouldn't want to sing.
Maybe if it's not the first proposal. I don't want to be in the first proposal.
No. I think he's gonna propose.
I feel like that would be too weird because I look like you.
And it wouldn't be weird that you exist and you look like me. All right.
Well, me singing, I think I want to marry you is a little weird.
No, and I'd come out and dance and whatever.
Yeah,
It'd be funny because you'd be like, it's a beautiful day.
God.
It would be so funny. Okay, well, we'll figure it out later. But I do have a...
It's not going to be a surprise now that you talked about it.
No, I'm not going to post this. I will wait. I want to do it. I'm going to propose to him on Leap Day. I do have an inkling that he'll propose to me before. I feel it. So we'll find out. None of this will go up till after it happens. Not going to jinx it. Okay, this part is really fun. You're going to like. So although there's a myth, so it's a myth. It's not true, I think, but I like that this is a myth. There's a myth that it's illegal for a man to refuse a leap day proposal. There's no basis to the so-called 1288 law by Queen Margaret of Scotland. Okay, but the law says, and this is, I guess, an urban legend, or at one point, this is the story behind it, the lore. It requires fines be levied if a proposal was refused, ranging from a kiss to a monetary fine to expensive gifts for the scorned woman. Regardless, one tradition says a man who refuses must buy the woman 12 pairs of gloves to hide to hide the embarrassment of having no engagement ring. Another says he must buy her silk. And another story says that a man who refuses will suffer severe bad luck and ill fortune. I just love that. I'm like, I wonder who made these up. Like,
Irish have a lot of like superstition. Yeah, superstition.
Witchy women, like, oh, I'm going to propose to you. Yes, you want to refuse. You want to have bad luck and ill fortune.
That's funny.
Would you ever propose?
Probably not.
Have you ever thought about wanting to do or no? It's never crossed your mind to want to.
I don't really think about proposals.
I love them because I was such a sucker for promposals. I love, like we grew up watching Laguna Beach and the OC. And
I never watched that show.
I loved
Did they propose a lot on that show?
Pep rally. Yeah, they do the promposals and the Sadie Hawkins. And I just love a good spectacle where you just get to plan a little show.
You do love a
show.
spectacle.
It's so fun. Love a show. I love a surprise in a show. Love a little show. Love a little twist. Love a little reel.
Well, that's another thing I remember, just because I just binge watched this show and we're talking about marriage and this show is a little bit about marriage. On Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Donald Glover's character, Mr. Smith, he's talking about weddings with Mrs. Smith, and he said he thinks it's a performance, and he was saying. He was like, oh, because they were like, oh, would you ever do a wedding? Obviously, they're married, but he was like, would you ever do a wedding? And then he's like, oh, I think it's a performance, but I would do it if it's just us. And I've always kind of seen marriage that way, too. Like weddings, like I never envisioned wanting to have people at my wedding, except for obviously close family, like maybe 2 or 3 witnesses.
What about Wushu?
But well, I'm just talking about like as a kid, what I envisioned. Wushu didn't exist when I was a kid. He's not.
He's a hyperdimensional being. He's
my point
through all
is,
of
I
space and time.
always, as a kid, when I dreamed about getting married, I never thought of it as like the big performance. But I can see also why you need that because, especially back in the day when everything was like an exchange, it's like you're making the vow and you need witnesses because if you don't have witnesses, it's easy to be like whatever. So I can see both ways, but I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people of the performance of it.
Might I add to that? 2 thoughts. One thought. I don't think a performance is a bad thing. It's literally my job. I've chosen to be a performer for life. Second thing, there is something, having been in weddings where I used to feel more like, it's just a blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I might add that my job is performing at weddings. So I don't think that people should not do it.
And I also say, so my second thing is I used to kind of think like, what's the point? But then having actually participated in weddings, both as just like a person watching it and as a person in the wedding, I have found there to be an energy that I like, really enjoy the idea of magic, not just like in a witchy sense, but in a nature, spiritual gathering, the energy of people and love and intention. And I find that there is a real magic of energy that happens when you gather people who love you and who you love together for you to make a commitment. And it's not just about the performance, but I do think too, by inviting those people to share in it, you create a moment of time that everyone in your kind of like immediate circle was there for, in a way that you almost are like I don't know if this makes sense, but you're almost like, if we're all kind of experiencing time in different frequencies on some level, but big events like weddings and babies, you're creating a very specific marker in everyone who was there's lives, that even if it's not the most important thing, if you were just an audience, but it's important enough that it ripples, that you're all connected. Everyone who is there is connected in that energy, focus. I think that you get that from concerts too, like going to big concerts like Coachella, whatever. You feel the energy of so many people gathering for that one moment. And so I don't think it's just in weddings, but I do think weddings provide that. Mm-hmm. And there is a layer, it doesn't have to be big, but there is a layer of like, if you sync up with people who aren't always together, like not just you and your partner, family who doesn't always get together except for on holidays, plus friends who only get together on party, what you sync up, you kind of create a very, I think, magical, like signature, time signature. It's the word is escaping me, but I see it so clearly. I almost feel like I see this. It's like a watermark or
stamp.
Yeah, like in time, that everyone like you're in your
bottle
brain.
Up time. No, yeah, I feel that because really cool. I've always thought that when I started DJing weddings, I always felt like, or even when I used to sing for weddings,
you sync up somehow.
Yeah, I didn't used to. Like you, of course, you know it's going to be a happy occasion, but you don't know until you experience it. Like these are strangers, I don't know them, but you feel so happy. When I first started, I would even cry, but I stopped doing that because I learned to manage my emotions a little better. But
people love it when you cry at their wedding.
No, but the strangers' weddings that I'm supposed to perform at. But the thing is, there's energy is real, so everyone's happy and there's love in the air, so everyone can feel it. And that's great. So I'm not saying I didn't mean it as it was a good or bad thing. I was just saying
you want to create an energy signature between you and the person you love in the same way. I'm just saying, looking at it from that point of view, you can be intentional about maybe the reason you want it to just be between you guys is you want to almost harvest this energy that's so powerful between you guys. Mm-hmm. And that's also one way to do it. But it's not because it's actually in the same realm of using that energy of how do you want to use the energy of that day. Do you want to spread it amongst your friends? Do you want to just have it for yourself? Like the power, you're going to feel it. That's power. It's not just like you and if you were to marry your boyfriend, there would be an energy in that day, even if it's just you two, that isn't the same as another day that you tell each other you want to get married. Like you are creating literally an energy source, which is really cool. That's why I do really
two become one, right? So now it's like the Transformers.
Well, yeah, but that's also why I really love
together.
The idea of. Even though I'm like, yeah, rings. But like there are...
You are like,
no.
Rings?
I'm just saying...
That's all you've been talking about.
No, I'm saying, yeah. Like I know like it's a superficial, but I want to go beyond that. I said there is something I really enjoy about the energy of nature. And it seems cliche because it is like a beautiful rock that is expensive. But also diamonds are, to me, a rock that reflects light in such a way that feels like that is a magic, where like all the energy channeling into this rock. Like I really feel like, and I'm a little bit of a crystal woo witchy, but like, yeah, I'm like, charge up my fucking rock of light. It becomes my infinity stone. Like that's how I see it.
That's funny. Well, if it's just that, you could just buy yourself a ring.
No. The energy of the time line it goes through, from the intention of wanting it
intention
to searching for it, to finding it, to everybody gathering it, basically to me collects the energy of time. I know that sounds super witchy, but hey, that's who I am. I love the idea of I started a sequence. Like for example, when I first started doing comedy, we all traced to our first open mic. Anyone who has done comedy can remember the first time they did comedy. They weren't good or whatever, but the start of the sequence, the day you went bloop, push the button, commence sequence, and you trace everything on your timeline, and that can line up to someone else who did comedy. Maybe they didn't start on the same day, but you can trace, at what point in your timeline did this happen? And I feel that about engagements because everyone gets engaged differently, but you can trace it to the question moment, to the ring moment, to the I do moment in a way that kind of gives us a way to measure our lives against each other's.
So you feel like the relationship starts at the engagement, not before?
No, I think the relationship starts when you're who you are. But I mean, specifically when we talk about how do you talk to people, your friends and family about these abstract things, I think this...
What abstract thing?
Well, about love and relationships. I think, and you can't just talk about like the first time we fucked because there's an exchange.
The first date.
No, there is an exchange of energy there. No, but not everyone has the same type of energy in first dates. But when you talk about these things on a grandiose level,
or first time your eyes met, it's love at first sight.
No, but not everyone has those the same way, right? But like you talk about the moment of the question. I do think that's a very clear way to at least kind of take this very abstract thing, like love and relationships, that's so different for everyone and every couple, and find a universal, at least a very vague universal moment to connect us all in an experience. That's all. It's like eating food. The moment you get the first bite to the moment you poop, like that is a sequence. But what about the third bite, fourth bite? Like there are things that matter, but like how do you talk about experiences like eating, like visceral, like fucking, fighting, eating, like things like that? Like I feel like the ceremony gives us a way and a frame to talk about love. Even though it's not required, it gives us a frame.
Interesting.
Wow, there's really so much about this that I didn't think we'd go through this. It takes so long, but I'm going to skip a few things. We already kind of talked about engagement rings. I'll give you a stat for the engagement rings, but I think we all get it. I think that's the thing that most people know about, I think, because that's the part that most friends, even if you're not engaged, share. Talking about rings, what kind of ring do you want? Average couple spent $6,000 on an engagement ring. Pre-pandemic was $5,900. According to the Knot, this surprised me. Proposers checked out an average of 15 different designs before making their final choice for a ring. And I thought I was being a little bratty for wanting to see 3 designs. According to the Wedding Wire, over 70% of proposers made their final ring choice less than 2 months before the proposal. You had asked me a funny question. What if you don't like the ring? Would you say no?
I only asked you that because you've been very picky about the ring.
Well,
I was like, is the ring the thing you want, or is
let's put it this way,
the relationship?
If you ask me anything, I'm going to give you an honest answer. This is how I am with if someone gives me a script.
And I don't mean no to marriage. I meant no in the moment. Like,
oh, I meant
like, what would you say?
I don't know, because I'm not there.
Right.
And so I would say if I'm going to be predicting of my behavior based on how many relationships I've been in that I should have been out of, I'd probably say I highly doubt I would say no. I highly doubt I would say no.
Then I guess the reason I asked you that question is like, then why are you making a deal about the ring? Why don't you just
I'm not. My best answer is if someone says to me, what do you want? I will answer it truthfully. But if someone says, I think I know what you want, let me try to get it, and they don't, I may still take it. But if someone says, do you want a chocolate cake? And I say no, I wouldn't want them to go off and be like, oh, I'll make one anyways. Well, that would be rude. So if you want to ask me, I will give you an honest answer. But if you want to be like, I think I know what you want and I haven't thought about it, then maybe I'll be like, oh, a chocolate cake? How lovely. Honestly, sounds weird because a lot of people ask me this, like, why are you making your, like, because
most people,
let's just put it this way. For backstory, we have gone, my boyfriend and I have gone ring shopping. I found one I really liked. It was too expensive. Okay, that's fine. I just want to put that out there saying I'm not like, nothing satisfies me. Then we found a couple other ones that I just didn't like. And then we kept looking. And so I've yet to find one I really love, but I also have now looked at enough to know the style and the general vibe that I like, and enough to give him information that if I were to draw it out of my imagination, I could create it. But also I want to give him freedom to, knowing all that, come up with his take, right? Like Donald Glover's take on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, his take on what my wants are. But here's the thing that scares a lot of men is that they don't want to be wrong. And so I am happy to help him along. I'm not like, read my mind. So if he's going to keep asking me, do you want this? Do you want this? I will keep answering truthfully. And what the problem we're finding now, what you're hinting at is that the things that he's saying, I think I found one. Do you like this? I'm saying, no, I don't like it because I don't. But I'm also like, do you want me to lie? Like, I'm sorry that I am picky. You know what I mean? Like, what? What?
No.
Well, okay, so that's what I mean when you said, would you say no? My actual answer is like, honestly, if none of this had happened and he had presented something to me that he thought was good, which has happened, I've gotten jewelry that I have been like, cute, but like, I'm happy you gave it to me. Cute, but like, you know, I've had that happen and I've taken it and worn it. But like over time, please notice which ones I wear more. And the jewelry has gotten closer to the ones I like. And I don't think any of that really matters because I'm not saying that I need any of it. I'm just saying, if you're going to ask me, why would I lie? Why would I be like, yeah, anything is fine? I wouldn't lie because I wouldn't want someone to lie to me. And that for me is important in my relationship. And I'll put it this way. When I ask him if he wants things, he tells me no all the time. So do you want to go to this thing? No. Do you want to eat this? No. So I feel like within our relationship, it's pretty balanced honesty. I just think because of the way it's set up where he wants to propose and get the ring and doesn't want me to do it, that there's a big kind of like step right now, which is him finding the one I want. But then after that, there's a lot of other parts, you know, which I did want to kind of talk a bit about queer proposals because this is something that, you know, I've thought a lot about. I've thought about proposing. I've thought about I've thought about having a wife. I've thought about walking a bride down the aisle. And, you know, the same way I've thought about, then maybe this is why I never was like so set on marriage, in that like, it isn't as crystallized for me of like what it would look like. Cause I can see different parallel universes where I remember seeing, it's funny because this relationship is so toxic now that we all know, but I didn't know this at the time. I remember seeing Ellen DeGeneres and Portia Rossi's wedding pictures and being like, oh my God, beautiful. And I was just like, oh my God, I'd love to have a bride. And I like saw Ellen got to wear the tux and Portia had the beautiful dress. And I was like, this seems so cool. I didn't know this was an option. And so I've thought about things like that and the idea of being like the one to do the big gesture. I love big gestures. And so I wanted to talk a bit about this because when we talk about engagements and weddings, oftentimes, more than not, we're talking about straight weddings because it is the majority right now in the industry. So that's where the money is. And but here's some statistics. Okay, first of all, gay people are spending way more on weddings than straight people. This probably makes sense because you're at a point, if you're doing it, you probably have a lot of money. And if you're not doing it, you're probably like, we don't need to do this. You know, it's like, again, going back to financial stability. If you can throw a big ass party, you're going to do it. You don't have to. And also society is telling you, you don't need to be married. You probably won't. So people, you know, talk about like who proposes. Obviously, sometimes one proposes to the other. Sometimes they both talk about it. This is all common sense. But I liked, this article talked about the single double proposal, or I want to call this this is the gay proposal for me, like the selfish proposal, like, but I want me too. Maybe not me too. Me too is not the right. Me too has a different connotation now. So sometimes couples I like this thing where they'll plan like, oh, we'll plan a weekend and that's when we'll propose. So they both have a plan and they do it. So there's an element of surprise. But this article calls it the single double proposal, which is what Neil Patrick Harris and David Burtka did. In 2007, Burtka proposed first to Neil Patrick Harris, and a year later, Neil Patrick Harris popped the question in return. So the single double is like, whoever wants to go first, you still have that tradition of like, I'm going to, like, generally you probably already talked about it, but there's still that in hetero couples where it's like, when is it happening? The first person gets to go first. And then you get a proposal back, but it's not always right away, like a year later or whatever. So you still get that surprise. And that's when I read that, why I was like, leap day would be so fun. It would be so fun because there's an element of surprise and also in showing the other person that they're special. But yeah, is it technically that once the first person does it, are you engaged already? Maybe. But in this version, they wait for both people to propose before they officially are engaged and have an engagement. Like it would be shitty if I was like, I proposed first. Now let's tell all our friends we're engaged. I'm like, I haven't proposed to you yet. Like, so they kind of wait for the second proposal to be
really?
The official.
Oh, they wait the whole year?
Well, it doesn't have to be a year, but that is one way to do it. And that's why I call that the gayest ever, because both people want it at the moment. I want to propose. I want to propose. I want to be proposed to. I want to be proposed to. So I like that one. And then some queer couples, instead of asking parents, as is more traditional in straight couples, especially if parents are not on good terms with their family, which can happen more in queer couples, will ask a best friend or, roommate, someone who's close to them in life, still and I think that's a really sweet gesture to just kind of as a way to be like, I intend to marry your best friend, and get the blessing. And so I think that's a cool way to do it, especially if you're not on good terms with your family, that you're still telling this person, like your friends and your people who are important to you are important to me. And it's important that they accept me. What do you think about the gay proposal, by the way? So I have friends who've done it together where they like happen to both do it around their anniversary, within days of each other. And that's cute. And they didn't plan it, but almost everyone I know this is maybe more for lesbians, because I guess I don't know about men and rings, but lesbians I know will pick their own rings. And I also think that's very gay. And that's why I feel like I'm not being a brat, because literally all my lesbian friends who propose to each other are like, they'll do the proposal and then they each pick their own ring. They're the one wearing it. So it's like, I don't know. This makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it probably varies for people to people. I've DJ'd a couple gay weddings, like men and women. And actually, I didn't pay attention to what the woman did for the rings. Let me see. There's been like 2 or 3. Yeah, I don't think I paid attention. But I did notice for one of because they talked about it. It wasn't a ring. For the gay couple, they did. I don't remember what type of jewel it was, but it was some kind of necklace with the precious jewel. But it wasn't a ring, but it was another maybe like
we love
black jade or something like that. Something kind of more special more interesting, I guess. They wanted to do something different. They also had been dating for a long time. Like the marriage was kind of one of those things where it's like they already are a domestic partnership, and it was I don't know their whole story, but it was like it wasn't like a surprise, basically.
Sure, okay.
And I think the other guy maybe gave something too, but I don't remember what it was. Maybe a watch or something. So sometimes you could do that, like you're saying, because maybe men don't want to wear rings. And some women don't either. So I guess you just have to know your partner, like what they like.
Yeah. But I do think more often than not, if 2 women are involved, women understand that, especially if it's a little more balanced in that they both are women who wear rings, like enjoy jewelry. Yeah. I just feel like it's almost silly at that point to be like, you pick mine, I pick yours. Because I mean, unless that's what you want, because that's never the part that we like. The part is the proposal. I almost always feel like, well, I know this from my experience. Maybe it's not true, and I'm actually happy to hear it. Let me know if you're a lesbian and you're married. Did you pick your own ring or did you pick your partner's ring? Because at least 2 of my couple of friends who I know who have done this picked their own rings. And then another one, it wasn't that they picked a ring, they didn't buy a new ring. It was they wanted to wear their grandma's ring, but the person whose grandma wore it. It was, whereas sometimes you hear the man will take the grandma and give it to the bride, but in this case it was like they both wear their family heirlooms themselves. So that's interesting to me because I think
you said something earlier that I wanted to comment on it, because you said nobody likes, or what did you say? I can't remember your wording, but you said people want to pick their own ring. But
no, I didn't say nobody likes. I just said given a chance.
I know. Well, I would say that there's 8 billion people in this world, and I am one of those people who would not want to see the ring or pick it at all,
ever.
No, I would want
the guy. If you got a big old ring, then it looks so ugly and it didn't match your face.
It wouldn't look ugly because my guy has good taste, right? That's the idea. Like, I would want to see what he picked because that has his character.
No, I like that too. Sure.
But so I was just saying that I don't think you can make generalizations. That's what I was saying. Some people give necklaces, some people give watches. Everyone's different. You have to know your person. So I would say try to do something that you think they would appreciate. Like if you know that they're picky and you know that they want to pick their own ring, don't go pick one for them then. But if you know that they like your taste and they don't really want to get involved in the weeds that maybe you should do it. Like everyone's different.
You know what's so funny is actually I have in my mind, if someone were to pick my ring, like if my boyfriend picked my ring, it would probably look very different from the one I picked, but I would also be okay with it. There's 2 worlds I would be okay with. One where he didn't ask me at all and guessed and got pretty close. I'd be very grateful. But the other one, if you're going to ask at all and then get it wrong, then I feel you're just half-assing it. Truly, because if you're going to try to be like, what do you think? What do I? And then if you ask me what I like and then you get it wrong. But if you don't ask at all and you're like, I'm going to do this myself, then I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is so sweet. But I think to me, the asking half, it's not the part about the ring. It's about the intention. It's about the part where it's like, I'm not sure what you want. And rather than put myself, be vulnerable and ask, and be vulnerable and take a risk and put in the time and effort to research, I'm going to ask you a few questions. But if you don't even know what you want, I'm not going to do the extra work by figuring it out. That's the part I didn't like. And we talked about it because I'm like, truly, it's just the part where I'm like, I don't need any of this. But if you're going to do it at all, I don't want it to feel like you're checking off a list. That's the part. Like if I'm going to do a gift for someone, rather than getting them an Amazon gift card, unless that's what they want, I want to spend time doing it. Especially if someone says I don't need a gift, then I either don't, or you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel. And that's why it's funny, because I'm thinking of the one I ended up saying I wanted is so different from what I thought I would have wanted. But when I actually came down to it, I really liked that he wanted to pick it together. Like he wanted to see how I looked at things and my taste. And I surprised myself because I didn't actually think about it, because I was like you, where I was like, I would be happy to, I didn't want to have any biases going in. But if someone's going to be like, let's go look, now I'm going to start doing the swipe left, swipe right. Like, what do I like? And I'm going to hone it down, and it's going to be particular. That's all. Like, I think that's fine. That's how dating was.
Just different.
That's how dating was. It's
okay.
like before I met my boyfriend, I wasn't like, it must be like this. But then once you do meet the person and someone goes, what do you want? You're like, I want him. You know, it's like, that's the one. So it's like, if you're going to show me a bunch of stuff and I'm going to pick, then I'll pick the one I want.
Interesting.
Well, now I wouldn't want to be like something else. But before I met him.
No, your analogy was just funny with dating. People aren't rings. Come on. People are unique individuals.
Well, I'm just talking
You're
about
not picking from a lineup.
Wanting things. If you ask me what I want, the way I would approach it isn't abstract. It's very specific. So if I don't know, it doesn't crystallize in an image, I won't just tell you whatever. How I do the research for when someone asks me well, some people do. When someone says, what do you want? Here's what I do. Let's start by what I don't want. And I just look at more things and go, no. So it's going to seem like I want nothing, but really I'm looking for the yes. But if you don't ask me what I want and you give me something, I might be like, sure, I'll have it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, like I'll eat a sandwich.
I think, like I said, I think everyone's just different, but it is interesting. Well, I think it goes back to, I guess we're not really talking about marriage here. It's kind of, it's hard to talk about engagement.
It's okay. You can touch on it, but I do think engagement is definitely a different piece of marriage. Like you said, it's a step towards getting married. Yeah. I don't think it's the whole thing, but I do think it's
nobody dreams about getting engaged. They dream about getting married, right?
Some people do. I would say this. When I associate engagement photos, the ring, wedding planning, bridal showers, I associate that more with engagements than marriage. I think that probably came about in the last 20 years with social media. And that's what we're talking about. I associate that more with weddings than marriage. I would say a wedding leads into marriage, but I wouldn't, when you say, tell me about marriage, I want to talk about way more than just engagements.
Well, yeah, no, because I brought up marriage because I was saying you're talking about how the idea of marriage has evolved, how it used to be about property. I would argue it's not totally not either anymore, but it has taken on a new life about love, which didn't used to be about as much. So because if it's about love, then it's more equal exchange, and that's where you don't need to do the rings. If you don't like rings, you could do the necklace or watch or whatever. Whereas before, I think the ring was kind of like branding the person. Like now I own you, you know? So now, because that's kind of a little less important to the picture. But they didn't
do engagement rings when it was property.
I think there's still a token.
No, the families would sign a contract.
Yeah, dowry or something. There usually was an exchange.
Is a new thing from couples.
There usually was an exchange of something physical, right? To mark the.
Yeah, but the ring is a thing from the future.
Well, the point is now that that's not as an. It's just a symbol now. You can actually pick something you like. So like you were saying, now people maybe are focused more on getting something that they like, because it's not so much about the thing. It's about a partnership and about like, maybe it's just a fashion thing now, you know? So it's like you're talking about, you want to like how, you know, you want to like it. So yeah, so I think there's more flexibility and openness to doing whatever works for you. Like everyone's just different.
Yeah. I guess it's interesting because
I saw one, sorry.
Yeah.
I just thought of it. I saw one where a guy proposed with 4 rings and let the woman choose.
I saw that.
That's a creative way to do that.
Oh God. Yeah. I saw that too. And I wouldn't mind that in theory, but I do think that goes against what you said, which is you want to see what he picks. Because I would say that's a version where we
picked 4 he liked, I guess.
Yeah, or I would say that's a version where he didn't know. And so it's hard to know. It depends on how you see it. Some people want to be like, you get me. Honestly, I think everyone secretly wants this. And maybe I'm wrong, but this is kind of jokey, but it's how mom would want it. Everyone secretly wants to say nothing and say, I would like anything you like. And then for that person to get the exact thing you want that you didn't even think about before then, but you saw and you're like, yes, it's perfect. I love it. No notes. We all want that. We want someone who read our mind, but even we don't even know what we want.
Well, if you don't know what you want, they can't.
This is what I'm trying to say. You gotta know
what you want first.
What I'm trying to say is I think the unrealistic thing that a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not, go into. Because if I were to tell you, this is a fantasy world, it's not true, but everything you wanted ever comes to you, but before you even know you want it. And even the things you don't want, like even when you don't want it, it goes away. Like it's just like, what we're talking about is a flow. I think some people want flow, but I'm trying to be realistic and say that like that's impossible. So if someone's going to ask, I will try to be honest. But if you don't ask, I'm also not going to throw a little fit. That's what I mean.
You said it's a fantasy world, and I would say, yeah, if you don't know what you want, but then you don't know what you want, so you can't have the answer. But I don't think it's a fantasy world to have things come to you that you want. And I don't quite know if you can have something you want that you don't know. Because if you don't know, you don't want it. Like you're saying you want something to come. I think
some people want to be surprised.
I think, yeah. So that's part of it. I think when you say people don't know what they want, they don't really not know what they want. They know what they want. But for some reason or another, they're afraid to say it. Because you could say, I want to be surprised. That's what you want. That's not knowing what you want.
Sure. And you know what has happened with me is what I've had to scale back. Because when someone asked me what I want and I was honest, I found that people didn't like the answer. It's true.
So maybe that's why you're afraid to admit what you want.
No,
so
and it's okay. And I kept saying it, and then people get mad, and I'm like, well, how about this? You ask me what I want, I'll tell you. You can decide not to give me what I want. In fact, you can give me 80% of what I want, and I might still be happy. If you're going to ask me, it's on the table that I can say anything, which is what happened. I said, I want a big ass rock. I want it to be fancy. I want all my friends to be jealous. That's what I want. I don't need it. But if you're going to ask me, I want it. And I don't know why I'm being judged for being honest. But here's the thing. And it sounds selfish, but I'm going to be honest. And
it's just funny.
If someone says, what do you need? I'd be like,
if
someone says, what do you need? I would say, none of that. Just you, baby. But the question is, what do you want?
I think you got to own what you want.
I did own it. We have plenty of fights about it.
No, I mean in your own heart. Like not to
in my
anybody.
own heart, I think I want the world. I want diamonds. I want to be a princess. I want to be the special person. But what I don't want is for other people to think it means that I don't think they deserve it. I think everyone should have it. I think you should have it. I think Wushu should have it. I think Prince should have it. I think everyone should get everything they want. And that is the part where people think I'm being selfish because all they hear is I want this. And what they hear is you're judging me for not having that. And I'm like, I don't have it. You ask me what I want, not what I have. I don't have it. You're acting like I have it. I do think there is a reality where some people here, because I have girlfriends and guy friends that will be kind of give me the shade when I say I want a big ass rock. They say kind of like a little bit like, do you really think you deserve it? And I'm like,
whoa.
No, they don't say
rude.
that. That's the feeling I get, right? Because they're kind of like, couldn't you settle? But in my mind, I'm like, no, I don't think I deserve a big ass diamond. Nobody deserves a diamond. Diamonds are blood diamonds. We shouldn't have blood diamonds. We shouldn't even put all this in.
There's other ones, right?
Well, I know, but what I'm just trying to say is everyone projects this thing like, oh, you said that's what you want. I feel like what they're hearing is you think like you're someone who thinks you should have that. I feel like I'm kind of digging in, but I really feel like nobody straight out judges me. They laugh like you did. But I think what bothers some people, because I talked about it on stage once and a couple got a little mad. They're like, I don't care about material things. It shouldn't be about that. I was like, well, it's not about that.
That's their shit.
But if you ask me, that's what I want.
I want to address what you said because
I want an Emmy. I don't need an Emmy. I want an Emmy. Okay, fine. What?
You said a lot, so I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
But I want to address one thing, which is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Is that there's a lot of fear about what other people think, because I'm hearing you say, I want this, And there's no issue with knowing what you want. In fact, I encourage you, because right now I think you're struggling with yourself of like, I want this, but I don't want it. Just own what you want. But what I do hear is you talked a lot about like, oh, I think people are going to think this. When you think that way, you start to mute the things you want.
My light, my inner diamond.
But yeah, that too. But in terms of like just being a decisive person, when you start thinking like, oh, I don't like how this is going to make me look, you like kind of lie to yourself, right? Over time, you'd be like, I don't really want that. I do kind of want it, but I don't need it. I'd be happy without it, but I want it. All that is just like noise. Just be like, I want this. This is what I want. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a big rock. Those are just specifications, right? Like you said, some people want it to look good on their hand. Like everyone's different again, like, you know, necklace, Rolex, whatever. Like for me, it's just not that important what it looks like. I never thought about that. But for some people, like it matters, and there's not right or wrong. It's really just like what you want, but you have to know, like you just have to know what you want. If you don't know, it can't come to you.
I do know.
And you have to not worry about
not coming to me.
What other people. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you worrying about how other people,
No, because people are getting mad at me. Here's the thing.
But why does it matter? They're not getting engaged.
No, the person who wants to propose to me is saying, what kind of ring do you want? And then I'm answering all the questions, being the good sport. And then he's saying, baby, want less, basically. Not saying that, but
well, you have to also, I don't want to go into your specific situation because I don't know what's going on specifically between you two, but you can want what you want, but you also have to be,
oh yes, no proposal has happened. I have not said no.
You got to be considerate of people's situations too.
Sure.
I'm not saying you in general, but like, let's say somebody had a budget for something, then, you know, you want to be mindful. However, I'm not saying to want less, because there are instances where you can get things in different ways. Like maybe suddenly you come into money, or suddenly there's a discount. There's so many possibilities in this world.
Yes. And
so you still have to keep your mind on what you want, but you don't want to like force it, you know?
This is the thing. You and I think the same.
Yeah.
I literally I have gotten things I wanted that were out of my budget because I wanted them. And so when someone asks me what I want, I say it.
Relax a
little
bit.
But then I think as a person who doesn't see the world that way, but also has a different beautiful worldview, my partner gets frustrated because
doesn't matter what your partner thinks. If you want something,
I'll say this.
But what
here's
I mean
the part
is,
that it matters, because even you've asked, why haven't you guys gotten engaged? And it keeps sounding like it's because
I only asked that because you keep talking about being married already. So then I'm like,
well, I don't know.
Gonna skip
then
the
maybe you
engagement
gotta ask him, because I don't know.
No, I first of all, let me clear I've not asked. I only asked this as a follow-up question when you're talking about engagements. I'm not asking out of the blue, like, hey, it's taking so long. That's not what I mean.
Well, I am.
I
am asking, why is it taking so long?
Usually when I ask you that question, it's after you're talking about ring shopping.
Sure.
So I just want to be clear. I'm not like pressuring you.
Yeah, and I will be honest.
Can take as long as
I'll be honest. I don't know how to answer that question, because in my mind, I'm also like, yeah, I don't know. Any day now.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's fine.
I don't
timing. You don't need to rush timing on these things, but.
Yeah, and I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, when people ask, is it you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so.
They're only asking you because you're talking.
I think I'm answering every question honestly that is being thrown my way.
And that's fine. People just ask because it's a natural follow-up question when you're talking about engagements. If you don't want people to ask, just don't talk about
I don't mind if they ask. I'm just like, what's the secret? You know how it feels? It feels like when I was in middle school and high school, and I remember having crushes and never knowing how to go from the crush part to the boyfriend. And I know it seems silly, because eventually as you got older, you figured it out.
It's called being allowed to go on date. You're not allowed
No, but it took a long time. Even when I was
you can't date till you're 16.
Even when I was in college and I was dating and, you know, hooking up, I didn't understand maybe I didn't know the in-betweens. I saw the big pictures, but I didn't see. Like, I'm like, oh, they went to a school dance. Okay, 2 months later, they're dating. I didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. And I would be like, well, we made out. Well, I'm talking to them. Well, I like them and they like me. Where is my relationship? And so I'm putting this out to show how naive it was. But I do feel like there's that element that's coming into play where I'm like, well, I don't know. Am I supposed to be pushing it? I don't know. And I don't think so. And I think we're doing it right. But I do think the reason I keep feeling angsty is because when I was younger, I would feel that way. Like, oh, I found the guy I liked and he liked me and we made out and then we hung out and got ice cream. Oh my God, we're gonna get engaged. Like, and then it was like, oh, he didn't even ask me to be his girlfriend. He just kind of fizzled out and stopped talking to me. And then in my mind, I'm like, was I supposed to have done something different? And in reality, I know now that is how relationships work. And maybe someone's not interested and we were young and you don't know how to say it. But what I fear, right? Like if we're really talking about fear, is that we're doing all this, saying all this. Like I had a dream the other night. I told Chris about it, that we were at dinner and it was him, but it wasn't him. It was like an amalgamation of everyone I've dated. Like it didn't look like him, but it was like him. Like we had the same history, but it's just like a stranger, like an AI face.
No, dreams sometimes tell me.
And in it, he was telling people about this girl he proposed to, and everyone was fawning over it. And I was getting confused because I was there with him as his girlfriend. And then someone was like, oh my God, when did you do it? And he said, oh, like we went to this festival in October or we went to see this band called The Twilight. Literally, this is a made up thing. And AI wrote my dream.
Twilight Zone.
But then everyone was like, oh, and then I was doing math. I was like, that was October. And I was like, wait, like you said you weren't seeing anyone then. And then he was like, huh? And then like, he was like, huh? And then everyone looked at me and I was like, and he was like, are you upset? And I was like, well, should I be? And he was like, I don't know. And then I was like, this is a dream. But I was like, well, you just said you proposed, you're engaged to someone, and you proposed to her in October. And we were seeing each other and we are seeing each other. And I said, and I asked you before that if you were seeing anyone, and you said you were, but you're not anymore. And you said you wanted to marry me and you wanted to be with me. And we went ring shopping 3 times. Because in real
your
life,
dream,
yes.
you kept track of all. Oh wow.
Yes. So
my dreams are a little more.
So that's why my dream is combining my fears, and I'm understanding because I was like, and in the dream he looked at me, he was like kind of like all that is true. I don't see the problem. I do want to be with you. I do want to marry you. We did go ring shopping, and I was like, but you're engaged. And so that's my fear of like, well, my fear is like we are doing all the things and we're all on the right track, and then it's gonna be like, yeah, but you didn't get it, honey. You didn't do it. You're not engaged. You didn't get married. Poof, it's gone.
That's a sad dream.
Well, I told it to him because in real life it's happened, right? Like I've literally been in relationships and then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm dating you and also dating. What are you talking about?
So it's just trauma from past relationships. Well, here's what I would say. Try, like in your dream life, you can't control it. Although be mindful of the things you think about before you fall asleep, because those will influence your dreams. But if you can, try to like calm those nerves during the day, because you already know, like you said, you have a trusting partner and things like that. So whenever you catch those thoughts, you could just try to like supplant it with something different, because those things will just keep you in an anxious state, and you're not gonna feel good. So if anything, it'll just help you feel better to try to like supplant it with more calm thoughts. And that will probably help you. Like right now, all those things that feel unrelated, like you're thinking like, oh, I can't find the right ring or whatever. Like it could also be related to that mood. That's kind of general anxious state. So once you like calm it down, you might be able to be like, oh, that's the ring I want. You know what I mean? I think your state, not you specifically, humans, this is what I've been learning, is your state influences way more than we think, like our world and the things that we think we can't control.
Yeah.
Your inner state like will influence it. So
I like that. And actually, I'm really glad that you said that. And I actually really appreciate your reaction, because I realized until now, I was like, that's a funny dream. And I told Chris and he felt sad about it. And you felt sad. And maybe it wasn't until both of you felt sad to me that I felt it's okay to be sad for the old me that had to go through that. And I think I'm actually glad I had that dream, because if it wasn't for that, I would keep putting all this pressure on, no, it's just the ring and just materialistic. But it's actually like maybe there is a fear of things slipping away, but at the end of the day, the thing that I will have is the object. And I'll be like, well, does she have a ring? Like, you know, like that in my mind, because I've literally been with, you know, in a relationship where I'm like, we're living together, sleeping in the same bed. I'm like, there's no way he's cheating. Yes, again. So it's like, yeah. So I feel that the fear I'm channeling into, well, what can I have and look at every day and go, even if he's cheating, I've got a diamond. Because in my mind, I would go, I've got the diamond, you know, and that's
a real thing.
Yeah.
People
and it
really
is a real thing. And I'm going to be honest, having been in situations like that, it ultimately is like, get out of that. But like the fear of like, well, you don't really know, that I still want to come out on top, because I was the person who's like, well, I'm the one getting posted on Instagram. So I got the diamond, even though it's like, who cares? He's
Yeah.
cheating on you.
Those are things that you probably got to work through on your own, but you can talk to your partner about. But those each person comes with their own
Sure.
things that they got to work through on there. But it is good to talk to them about it. So just so they know and they're aware. But I think those things you kind of have to work out on your own. I think there's only so much that another person can do for you. But it sounds like you're doing all the right things. And
I think so. Well, it was really lovely to talk about the things with you, and I'm doing all the things. Whale thing 2.
Yes,
Next
thing
week
1?
is you. What do you want to talk about next week?
Should I just say it on air?
Sure.
Because if
You can pick a
we
topic.
end up picking something else, then
I guess we can end up picking something else, and you can talk about how you pick something else. I like the idea of you picking it on air. It's kind of fun.
okay. Well,
you
I
have
had
an
I did have ideas, but I thought we were gonna
Oh,
you're gonna
you don't have
decide
to.
like you're gonna tell me veto yes or no. But I'll just say them then.
Okay.
And then I guess we'll just do this on
We
the
can cut
podcast.
this if we want.
Well, I was thinking about talking about waking up early and morning routines, maybe as part of that. And specifically, and full disclosure, I don't have a good habit of that, but I've been trying to do that more. And I thought for this episode, I could try to do it for a week so that we could actually talk about next week if I notice anything different. I have had periods in my life where I've done it consistently, but I think it would be fresher if I'm like actually investigating it,
Okay.
you know? And then also I'll talk about other people, other CEOs or whoever who do it as well in their morning routines.
I like that.
But specifically I was going to, I feel like if I say it on air now, well, I guess I got to commit to it. I was going to shoot for 5:30 a.m. I know you already wake up
That's
early every
pretty
morning.
early.
Yeah, you don't have to do that early, but the idea of early, it's just
Well,
early.
I like the idea
You
because
already wake
I
up
like
early.
the idea of doing. I wake up at 5 and 6 usually.
you do, yeah,
somewhere
see?
between there.
Yeah.
But I like lately more 6 and 7. But I like the idea of waking up to work out because I haven't been doing that. So if you do that, I'll wake up and go running or something.
Nice, yeah. I work out a little later, like either later in the morning or at night. So I'll probably stick to that just because I have other things I need to do in the morning that are time sensitive, and I can work out whenever. But I do want to try to do the early thing because like lately it's been like 7 or 8. You know,
How to have a good morning.
morning routines.
Morning
I think,
routines,
or how to,
okay.
yeah, I think morning
I'm
routines.
just trying to think of a little clicky click. But okay, morning routines to be successful, or just morning routines. Morning routines. All right, you got it.
I'll come up with a longer.
You
title.
will lead it.
Okay.
I will. I can't wait to hear about how important morning routines are.
Yeah.
Well, from WKEZY Chicago, this is. Why is that so funny?
We're not in Chicago.
Goodbye.